Any man who says I am the king is no king at all, as unlike many who believes that the seat of power holds the solution to all their problems, it is otherwise a great burden for those who want to do well. 7 years have passed since the last ambitious expedition to Valencia ended in failure. Serendia's king, Crucio Domongatt, let out a sigh, noticing in a nearby mirror that the years had not been so kind to him. With eyes narrowed, Roxanne, wife to the eldest prince, advised the king to take a rest, move on to the next era, and pass the crown to live out the rest of his days in peace. Exhausted with the burden of the crown, the king agreed, and later called forth his 3 sons, and proclaimed that he would abdicate the throne to the son who best proved himself loyal to the king and to the beloved people of Serendia. The eldest prince, Antonio Domongatt, stepped before the king and swore to devote his life to protect Serendia and declared to set off and conquer Media to bring honor to his father's name. The second son, Prince Crucio Domongatt, then stepped forth and declared that he'd take back Balenos from Calpheon and place his sister, Princess Jarret, to rule the region in peace and prosperity. Lastly, the youngest prince, Vittorio Domongatt, stepped forth, but unlike his brothers who declared grandiose things in order to bid for the crown, he instead advised, "My brothers are blinded by their greed for the throne, and seek to win over father's favor with lies and deceit. Hastily relinquish your throne, and the day shall come where you see your sons shed blood and tear themselves apart in jealousy." At his words, everyone became silent, and the entire court was still. The sudden outburst of the youngest prince had initially wrought waves of shock to the aged king, which quickly turned to rage. The king immediately casted out the youngest, declaring that his head would find it ever so swiftly removed from his shoulders if he ever dared to show his face in Heidel again. Months after the banquet, the king declared the eldest prince, Antonio, his successor to rule over Heidel, granted the southeastern territory of Eindhoven to Prince Crucio, and split the town of Glish, which originally belonged to the youngest prince, between the 2 sons. Meanwhile, the exiled prince sought a new life as a simple farmer, toiling the fields of Glish. Upon hearing the news, Frederick Ducas, famed swordsman and loyal subject who had fought by the king's side in his past expedition, sought an audience with the king. Yet the king turned a deaf ear to Frederick, who did not relent. Frederick's persistence angered the king so much that he eventually came to strip Frederick of all ranks and titles, as he was once the head of the most renowned and loyal house in all the kingdom and fellow comrade in arms in countless battles, who the king himself had made him general of all his armies. As if being demoted to the rank of lowly foot soldier wasn't enough to quell the king's fury, Frederick was sent to the western front, bordering Calpheon. House Ducas would never recover its former position in Heidel. Frederick's residence was sold to the Old Moon Guild, and his family scattered to all corners of the region. Only his son was spared, adopted by Frederick's comrade in arms, Edward Rundy. Time passed by, and on one fairly hot summer night, the new king of Serendia, King Antonio, opened a banquet for his father, who was weary from the heat. On that day, a man with platinum blonde hair, shining beneath the moonlight, caught the eye of Queen Roxanne. She also noticed that the young man was engaged in a secret lover tryst with Alicia Seric, wife of the king's brother, Crucio Domongatt, and Duchess of Fort Eindhoven. The queen's handmaiden revealed that the blonde suitor was named Jardine, who was quite popular amongst the ladies of the court. The man was already deeply involved with the royal family, yet the queen rarely meddled in such trite affairs. Watching from afar, while taking occasional sips of the Perodonio wine, the queen had mustered enough courage and was set on seducing the young man for herself, when suddenly, a servant accidentally spilled some drink into the king's lap. Furious, the king sought to behead the servant, only to be assuaged by Crucio himself. Roxanne breathed a sigh of relief that the banquet has been salvaged from becoming a bloodbath. the bland young man would have to wait for another time. At first, the issue was bringing in and casting out servants. By principle, the king held the sole authority in deciding all matters within the royal house, yet King Antonio allowed his father Crucio to do as he wished. However, Crucio began to intervene in hiring of knights and other subjects. Growing bolder day by day, respect for the throne plummeted, and Queen Roxanne, who couldn't bear for this to continue any further, confronted her husband.
A new sun has dawned on Serendia, yet the one who is not even a moon but a mere stardust after the sun's light is challenging your right. Will His Majesty merely stand idle as his kingdom is torn asunder by two suns?
King Antonio too was distraught, but Crucio was too powerful for him to challenge head-on. When the king attempted to bring Frederick Ducas back from the front lines in an attempt to bolster the capital's security, Crucio heard the news and threw a tantrum inside the castle walls. Antonio's patience had run its course. The king sent his personal guard to bring Crucio before him, his queen, and the rest of the royal household. There, he forced Crucio to bend the knee and sign a contract of loyalty to the king. Heartbroken, Crucio left Heidel with his remaining family towards Eindhoven, where his second son Sergio resided, with the hopes to live the rest of his days in peace. But what awaited the old lion of Heidel was something out of a nightmare.
Yes, some things never change, like how I'm holding on tight to you.